Greetings, Calico fans. This is H.H. Sherman from Sigma Comics coming to you from the greatest city in the world, New York City. And we have another great video for you. And before I get into it, let me take a swig of the old Calico mug. Always good. Today we're going to talk about a topic that, well, it was a fight that happened. It happened a couple weeks back, and I've been very busy traveling. I know I took a recess with the videos about a month, and this fight happened a couple weeks back. And I did want to talk about it because it was a pretty important fight. I was very proud, frankly, of boxing to put on a fight like this, because it's been a while, and frankly, it's not something that happens these days in boxing. And it's very sad, because boxing was a sport that pitted the best against the best, and that simply isn't the case these days. Okay, these days you're lucky if you get top champions fighting each other. Okay, so before I get into it even further, please hit the subscribe and the like buttons. Subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Why? Because I think you're going to like this video, and because I think you're going to like our cause, which is fighting animal abuse through comics. All right, before I get deeper into, I want to vet myself, because I don't think a lot of the audience knows this. I am a former prize fighter. Okay, I'm a former boxer from the Bronx. I did compete at a very high level in the New York boxing amateur system, and then as a professional in the MMA circuit. So I'm speaking from very good knowledge. I did train in one of the best boxing gyms, frankly, in the world, Morris Park Boxing Club, as it was known then. I think they returned. I think after I left, they started calling it Star Boxing Gym, and now I think it's called Morris Park Boxing Gym. Now, again, I'm not sure about that, but I haven't been back to the gym in a while. I got to go see the guys back there. But anyway, I was pretty. Let's just say I fought at a high level here in New York, and I got to spar with lots of very talented individuals, professional, some world champions as well. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. I've been watching boxing ever since I was a kid with my dad. I think it was like 3 years old watching boxing. You know, ABC Wide World of Sports. So let's just say I've been watching boxing for decades, and I've been in countless boxing gyms. As a fighter, as a spectator, etc., lots of fights. Huge boxing fan. So again, I know what I'm talking about. Trust me. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let me tell you what I felt about the fight. So I hadn't seen Spence or Crawford in full fights. That is to say, from beginning to end. I'd seen rounds of their fights, and I had my takeaways. And before I even continue, let me just say that I did have Crawford over Spence. So, you know, my guy won, so to speak. Although I think they're both very talented fighters, and I do actually, you know, wish them both very well in their careers. Kudos to both of them, those very good fighters. I favored Crawford for a variety of reasons, but I guess the main one, after seeing them both, you know, intermittently in rounds against, you know, various fighters, I would say the foundation of why I liked Crawford over Spence was that Crawford struck me more as a warrior. This is someone who, you know, he sort of had that marvelous Marvin Hagler effect, where it doesn't matter what's coming down the pike there. He's gonna have something for you, if you know what I mean. Some of you know what I'm talking about. He's gonna have something for you. All right, and that's the one who I think of the two impressed me on that front. I think that, you know, when push came to shove, Crawford had a bit more gusto. He had that essential fighter warrior part of him that he was just going to bang. And his bang was going to hurt more than Crawford's. And I don't care how good the other guy's punch was. I mean, look, perfect example of this was actually, Hagler's a great example. Hagler versus Hearns. Well, those of you who know fight history know that fight was 3 rounds. Okay, this fight went 3 rounds. And let me tell you, it went early in the 3rd round. Okay, it wasn't even deep in the 3rd round. If I remember correctly, I think Hagler put Hearns down in like the 1st minute of the 3rd round, or somewhere close to that. Certainly within the 1st minute and a half. The bottom line is that despite Hearns, okay, Thomas the Hitman Hearns, okay, and he earned his moniker, okay, he earned his nickname. Despite Hearns potentially having the harder punch over Hagler, because Hagler wasn't really a one-punch knockout artist. He could certainly do it, but he really just beat the living crap out of you. He just broke you down. He hit you in the elbows, the shoulders, the wrist, the stomach, everywhere, hips, all over your body. He just destroyed your body and just rendered you completely nullified. He beat the living crap out of you. Let's just put it plainly. Hagler did, okay? And he was a bruiser, Hagler. Rest in peace, Hagler. What a legend you were, and I was a huge fan. That is a man that I respect to the very end. A true warrior, and what a hard work, and what a wonderful example for his folks there in Brockton, Massachusetts. All the people there in Brockton, just wonderful fans of boxing, and he put Brockton. Brockton was already on the map because I'm pretty sure that's where Marciano's from. Okay, if not from Brockton, somewhere in that area there. I know it's from Massachusetts. I just didn't know where in Massachusetts. I'm pretty sure it was Brockton. You guys can correct me in the comments. But this is a public there in Brockton that had a very capable fighter who eventually became a champion through hard work. It wasn't because he was like a polished, skilled fighter. It was because he believed enough in himself to follow the tutelage of those brothers. I forget their names. Their name escapes me right now. But the 2 brothers there, I believe they were Italian-American fellows there in Brockton, Massachusetts, that had the gym. Or they were training there at the gym. And they saw something in Marvin, or Mr. Hagler. And man, that guy he had that fire. And that's that kind of fire I'm talking about with Crawford. He has that. He definitely has that. And I think that comparison was a really great one because, again, Hitman Hearns had the pop, had that punch that Spence has. Spence does have that one-punch knockout power. And, he has that incapacitating power that when he hits you, he can hit you the right way, you're going to go to sleep. And Crawford was in there with a guy like that, as was Marvin Hagler, the marvelous one. And listen, our guy went right to work, as did Marvin Hagler. And I think that's how you fight guys like Thomas Hearns and Spence. You just sort of get at it. You make sure you're not making any stupid mistakes. Obviously, you're well protected, right? Your hands are up. You're fighting. You're moving your head. You're controlling the distance, the ring generalship. Everything is well paced to your liking. He's fighting your fight, not the other way around. You're getting him off the angles that he needs to set his punches up. All these things. This is how this fighter, Crawford, fights, and that's why I had. It wasn't even that I was leaning towards Crawford. I actually had him winning the fight convincingly because of that. He has a lot of different aspects to his game that I simply felt were going to help him much more in the fight than what Spence brought to the table against Crawford. Crawford is someone who has been fighting for a very long time. He's a seasoned fighter that has that fire in the gut. And let me tell you, that's not often the case. I remember coming up in the amateur system in New York, all the way. This was the case, I would say, from the very beginning I saw this, because actually my very first fight was against a polished fighter who was certainly more experienced than I was. He was from Yonkers, and he was a very seasoned, polished fighter there from Yonkers. This is, those of you not familiar, Yonkers is in Westchester, but barely. It's pretty much like 5 minutes north of the Bronx. Okay, you're riding the Bronx, you just go, it's barely up there in Westchester, which, by the way, is a suburb of New York City. So, some rough parts, and certainly this individual was from the rough parts of Yonkers, that Broadway section there in Yonkers. And, he was a tough customer, but he was very polished. Which is to say, he had a nice snappy jab, which my jab wasn't really snappy at that point. It was more of a thuddy kind of jab. But I popped it. I popped the jab. And he had very nice sort of, I'll call them short right hands, but they were compact and closed right hands. And he would torque the punches. He was very well trained, as I was. But I was just young and sort of new. Was very green. That's the better word. But yet I won my fight. Well, how the hell did I win the fight against the guy who already had, my guy had 1 or 2 fights, and this was my first fight. And I won it by TKO, a stoppage in the second round. So how was that possible? Well, because when I was competing, I had the same thing. And it's that fire, that will. It's not even will. I mean, it is will, but it's something else, because it's a warrior spirit. Will is you wanting to get that damn thing done by any means necessary. It's not pretty. You're going to score that damn touchdown one way or another. And yes, that's what I brought, because I had to, because I didn't have this skill set yet that this other guy had. But the warrior spirit is something akin to that. I think the willpower is a subset. It's like sort of a part of the warrior fire. And that's what our friend Crawford has. And again, this is not to say that Spence doesn't have it. It's just, it is more evident, at least to me, in Crawford. Especially in the tight exchanges, when they're very close, the infighting, as we call it in boxing. You could really see it. You could see it in how this man is looking, eyeing this opponent. Okay, look at the eyes of a lion in the jungle. Okay, when they're right up against that prey. What that looks like. That's sort of what's going on with Crawford. And it's not that he's exposing his teeth or doing anything like that. It's that you don't even have to see it on the surface. I see it inside from within. And maybe it's because I'm a fighter that I can see it. But I'm sure some of you can and understand what it is that I'm talking about. He's got that fire. And that's such an important thing. I don't remember the ages of these fighters, but if I'm not mistaken, I think Crawford's even older than Spence. So that was even a disadvantage he had going into the fight. I may be mistaken, but again, you guys can correct me here in the comments, and please do. But if I'm not mistaken, I do think that Crawford was a little older, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that's why I think Crawford was going to win, why I thought he was going to win. And of course, now we know he did win. So I was right, as I often am. It's true, though. I actually do wind up winning, picking the winners. Anyway, curious to hear what you have to say about this fight. I didn't see it as it was happening, but I did see the next day all of the highlights, and I did see the wow. It was quite a pummeling that Spence did take. I did think let me just say one more thing on this. One thing that I did see the next day, this was Sunday, as most big fights happen on Saturday nights, for those of you who aren't familiar with boxing, because a lot of our audience are comic book readers, comic book fans, and animal lovers. I talk about boxing because I am a former fighter and I know the sport pretty well. And a lot of our comic book fans are also not only boxing fans but MMA fans as well, which I do talk about as well in the videos. And it is because the series, those of you who are reading it, Here Comes Calico, does get technical in boxing and MMA fighting. So that's why I do these videos here, because again, a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy this. Anyway, so one thing I did hear on the talk shows the next day on Sunday was that a lot of them were surprised. I'm just going to take a quick sip here. A lot of them were surprised, they meaning the commentators, that Crawford dispensed with Spence so easily. And let me just say this, as a fighter, I can say this very safely. It's not as easy as you think. Okay, it may look easy, but it's not. There's a lot of computing that's happening up here to render these results, okay, to deliver these results. And I can assure you it was not easy for Crawford. It may have looked easy for him, and for him to quickly dispatch Spence. I don't think he quickly dispatched him. I think it was formulaic. I think it was a progressive advance into demolishing the Spence offensive and defensive, both intellectually and physically and emotionally. Okay, so it's not just taking someone's weapons away, it's breaking them down emotionally and making them think, wow, this isn't happening right now. I can't believe this is happening. Remember, this guy hadn't lost before. Okay, and that's the drama and suspense of pitting champions against each other, right? And that's what happened in this fight. So again, kudos to the promoters, kudos to boxing for a very good night. I thought it was a very good night for boxing, and frankly, we need more of this. So was I surprised at the outcome? No, I was not, both on two fronts. One, that Crawford won, and that Crawford won convincingly. I was not surprised in either. I know it's very self-serving for me to say this after the fact, but I'm saying this on a platform that is backed by a substantive perspective, and I've just shared with you these perspectives. So anyway, curious to hear what you say, what you thought of the fight. Again, I thought it was a pretty good fight, and leave a comment there about what you thought of the fight. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe button. It does help. And hit the like button too while you're at it if you like the video. And we do have a comic book series. Again, we are a comic book publisher with a boxer from the Bronx, Hector Gill, who is the Calico, who goes after people who abuse and kill animals and brings them to extreme justice. We do have Here Comes Calico on Kickstarter right now. Go and type in Here Comes Calico issue 7, or just Here Comes Calico on Kickstarter, and click the Back This Project button and select a reward and help us out with this wonderful campaign, because when you do, every penny goes to fighting animal abuse. And with that, keep on fighting for animals.